Containing more romance than 100 novels, this book describes a life almost too extraordinary for fiction, as Stephen Lucas Bridges grew up with the natives in the remote Tierra del Fuego in South America, the place he calls the uttermost part of the earth. In 1871, Stephen's father, Reverend Thomas Bridges, a member of the Patagonian Missionary Society, was the first successful missionary to establish a settlement in Tierra del Fuego, and the first white man to earn the trust of the Yagan Indians. But it's the prelude to Stephen's story, as recounted in the early chapters, that provides the link with the past for today's visitor by retelling of what happened here on the windswept beach of Wulaia. Tierra del Fuego is the name given to the archipelago of islands that form the southern tip of South America, the southernmost land point before Antarctica. On arrival in 1871, Reverend Thomas Bridges built the first ever house in Ushuaia, which today is a bustling port of 57,000. And just 3 years later, our author, Stephen, their third child, was one of the first non-natives to be born in the new settlement. Numbering in their thousands in the mid-19th century, the Aboriginal Yagan lived a nomadic life around these islands of the Beagle Channel and the Murray Narrows. They had survived the harsh conditions for centuries, but today there is little trace of the Yagan descendants following colonisation and the introduction of measles. The Beagle Channel, named after HMS Beagle, following its first survey of South America in 1827, connects the South Atlantic with the South Pacific. During that expedition, the Beagle's captain, Pringle Stokes, committed suicide and was replaced by Captain, later Vice Admiral, Robert Fitzroy. Having discovered the Beagle Channel and the Murray Narrows, which we will visit shortly, Fitzroy continued his exploration by sending crew out on one of the whale boats they had on board.
And now with the boats we stay here, just we turn left side in the middle of little island. We go east here and we turn south to this little channel. It's a Murray Channel or Murray Narrow. That is a separation between the Navarin Island and the Host Island.
On one occasion, the crew blamed the loss of their whale boat on the natives. History casts some doubt on the story, but Fitzroy reacted by taking 4 young Yagan, who happened to be alongside in their canoe, hostage. When the whale boat was still not returned, instead of releasing the young Fijians, Fitzroy brought them back to England with the intent of educating them.
We cross this little channel to the south and we go here. It's Navarin coast in Wulaia. It's a place of the name. Wulaia in Yagan language is a nice bay. After Wulaia, we continue the navigation. It's not the idea, but if more or less 8 hours, we are in Cape Horn. But not today, I'm sorry.
So our destination is Wulaia, a few hours sailing from the notorious Cape Horn. Returning to our story, the 4 captives were given the names of Boat Memory, Fugia Basket, the only female and the youngest at just 9, York Minster, and a 14-year-old Jemmy Button. Boat Memory was regarded as the most intelligent, but sadly he died of smallpox almost as soon as he arrived in England. But the others, and particularly Jemmy Button, became something of a celebrity. 4 years later, Fitzroy again set sail in command of HMS Beagle, this time on a round-the-world trip, with the intention of repatriating Jemmy and the others on the way. On board was the young graduate Charles Darwin, and although it took 4 years to reach them, this was to be Darwin's famous voyage to the Galapagos Islands. A year after leaving England, the Fijians were reunited with their own people, with the expectation that they would lift the natives from savagery. Fitzroy went off to chart the area further, but when he returned 3 months later in March 1834, he found that Jemmy Button and the others had settled back into their native ways. Darwin was later to comment he had never seen so complete and grievous a change. It was another 25 years before contact was made with them, this time by Captain Phillips on behalf of the Patagonian Missionary Society, who had established a small chapel on this beach in Wulaia. Captain Phillips had anchored his boat, the Island Gardener, in this bay where we are moored today, and was holding a service in the little chapel. In attendance were the natives, including Jemmy Button, and the crew of the Island Gardener. The only person not to attend was the ship's cook. But something was to happen of which we will never know the cause. A commotion broke out in the chapel, and Captain Phillips and his crew were all clubbed to death by the natives, led by the same Jemmy Button. It was only 15 years later that our author, Stephen Bridges, was to be one of the first non-natives to be born in Tierra del Fuego. Even today, Navarino Island, just across the Beagle Channel from Ushuaia, his birthplace, is an uninhabited wilderness studded with barren peaks and isolated valleys. And yet Stephen's book, published in 1949 at the end of his life, but at the beginning of mine, provides an intimate link with another age.